We would like to welcome all of, let's see. We'd like to welcome all of you today to our Board of Commissioners meeting, Weber County, January the 4th, 2022, 10 o'clock in the morning. We thank you for being here. I'm Commissioner Jenkins, and to my left is Commissioner Four. Commissioner Harvey, I think, is online, but he's home ill today. Commissioner, you want to, I'd tell you give us a thumbs up when I can't see you. Do you want to say anything, Commissioner Harvey?
No, I will in a moment. Thank you.
There he is, right there.
There he is.
Boy, look at there. You're in your tie and jacket. I'm amazed.
Terrible.
You're not looking that healthy, though.
That's true. All right. Well, with that in mind, we will go to the first items on here. We have a Pledge of Allegiance today by Brandon Quinney and an invocation by Commissioner Four. Thought of the day, Commissioner Harvey, I hope you're ready to give that.
He's nodding yes.
Yes.
Very good. We'll go ahead and go to that. Then Brandon?
Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father in heaven, as we come together in this new year you have given us as the citizens of this great country in Weber County, we give thanks for this country and our form of government and the freedoms that we all enjoy. We give thanks for the joy for this time of years and the time that we have had to spend with our families and friends and the memories that have come from those family gatherings over the past couple of weeks. Father, we ask for your blessings to ensure that the decisions that are made today are with your guidance and inspiration and will be made in the best interest of all citizens of this county. Please bless those in our community that suffer now with health issues so that they may soon return to full health and enjoy all the blessings that they so deserve. We do ask for a special blessing at this time on our fellow commissioner, Jim Harvey, bring him to full health so he can join us in serving these duties for the benefit of Weber County, that we so enjoy working with him and his family. We ask also for your guidance so that we, as citizens of this county, may all work together in the best interest and enjoy the associations we have as friends and families and citizens as we advance the agenda of this commission and ensure that all citizens of this county are well served. We say this prayer in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner Four. Commissioner Harvey, go ahead with your thought today.
Thank you, Commissioner. My thought today is rather short, obviously, but you know, sometimes, and it has to do with one of the things I really love in our community to focus on, and that's kindness. Sometimes it only takes one act of kindness and caring to change a person's life. And so I hope a thought by Harold Kushner, he says, you do things for people not because of who they are or what they can do for you in return, but because of who you are. Those acts of kindness begin with the man in the mirror. And I hope that all of us, when we take a good look in, we can start with the kindness to our own selves. We can be kind to ourselves, and then we can turn around and do kindness to those in our family, and then in those we work with and in our community. And those are my thoughts today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Harvey. We wish you well. Get better.
Thank you.
I myself have come down with a cold, and so I've elected to wear a mask because I'm trying to keep Commissioner Four healthy.
Thank you.
He just got over it himself, and so we're trying to stay healthy as a commission right now. So we'll go to that point. All right, next items on the agenda are the consent items. Item 1 is a request of approval to ratify warrants 4880 through 4909 and 464 539 through 464 771 in the amount of $6,382,601. Item 2 is a request for approval of the warrants 4910, 4934 through 464772 through 464892 and 135 through 144 in the amount of $953,210,000. Request number 3 is request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $229,444. Item 4 is request for approval of the minutes for the meeting held December 21st, 2021. Item 5 is request for Weber County Road Department for approval to surplus a sander. Item 6, request for approval of an amendment to contract 4736 by and between Weber County and Cody Nebaker, allowing the contract to operate and maintain a concession facility for the disc golf at Fort Buenaventura. And item 7 is request for an approval of new business licenses. Questions, Commissioner? Any?
No, I've been through the warrants and everything appears to be in order.
That's a lot of warrants to ratify. $7
Yeah.
million worth.
A lot, yeah.
Heavy duty. Mr. Hatch, would you like to go through those?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. We issued 34 purchase orders this week for $229,000. There were only 3 departments listed on there, and 2 of them accounted for basically 100% of that amount. Library accounted for 2/3 of that, or $152,000. And it's a large number of purchase orders that will go throughout the year to cover building, grounds, and facility maintenance almost exclusively. 33% or $76,000 is for IT, and that will go towards software maintenance. We had 2 check runs that we're talking about. The first one was last year's check run. We issued 263 warrants for $6.4 million, for a pretty large amount. 2/3 of that amount, or $4.1 million, was transportation fund tax dollars that we collect. We simply flow those right through to the Utah Transit Authority. We had 9% of that amount, or $559,000, was an escrow release for Taylor Landing subdivision, and then 8%, or $490,000, was for the transfer station to pay for disposal fees. And finally, for this check run, 6%, or $360,000, was from the Stormwater Fund, and that went to the Winson Park sewer release. For this week's check run, we issued 153 warrants for $953,000. Just under half that amount, $430,000, was an escrow release for Legacy Mountain Estates. 11% of that amount, or $105,000, was for the library, which went towards books and materials, roller shades for the Ogden Valley branch, digital microfilm scanner, as well as some building maintenance. 8% of the amount, or $80,000, was for the health department to purchase a mobile vaccine van, as well as computer equipment. 7%, or $68,000, was for the jail. That primarily went to gloves, nitrile gloves, food, utilities, and public relations. 5%, or $51,000, was for the roads department to purchase a new sander, as well as some snowplow blades and salt. And that's it.
That's a lot. You say that's it. Commissioner Farrar, any questions?
No, I'd be happy to make a motion when you're ready.
Recording in progress.
Commissioner Harvey, do you have any questions?
No, it's very typical, the first time we do this every year, so it's no questions.
Very good. So Commissioner Farrar, I am ready for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd move to approve consent items as listed on the agenda E, 1 through 7.
Commissioner Harvey, do you want to give us a second?
Yes, second.
Very good. All in favor, say aye.
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 Consent items are approved. Now, being the first meeting of the year, this is traditionally where you change chairs and vice chair appointments. Commissioner Harvey, this is a chance for us to override you on something because you're not here.
Let me make that, if I can, let me chime in and make that easy. I'd like to I appreciate your support over the last year as the chair. There weren't any, you guys always stepped up and supported me, and I really appreciate that. I love the direction we're headed in the county. Really grateful. We have a wonderful team. But as would be customary and proper, to change that leadership is the right thing to do. And so if you would allow me, I would like to make the recommendation that the vice chair, which would be Scott Jenkins, be moved to chair of this commission effective immediately. And then Commissioner Frohr would be put in as vice chair. So chair would be Commissioner Jenkins, vice chair would be Commissioner Frohr. That would be my recommendation, and I'd like to submit that in the form of a motion.
Very good. I'll accept that. We weren't planning on you doing it, but that's okay. Commissioner Frohr?
I'll second that, and I just wanted to, again, express my gratitude and thanks for Commissioner Harvey. He did an excellent job as chair this past year. He kept us on track. I think it wasn't an easy year, as most of them aren't, especially in these difficult times, but very much appreciate his service, and in my opinion, he did a great job of keeping this team headed in the right direction and keeping us together. And I look forward to Commissioner Chair Jenkins assuming that leadership role and doing the same thing over this next 12 months. I'm looking forward to that.
Very good. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, we have a motion and a second. And I'll speak to that in just a minute. I agree with you all. This is customary that we do this, and I don't want anybody to think that this is a big rift or anything in the county. We do these kind of things. We try to work together, and I think it's very important that we do that. And I absolutely love working with you two, and so I appreciate it. Well, okay, I'll place a motion and call it. All in favor, say aye.
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 It's unanimous. Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. We appreciate that. Next item on the agenda, number 2, is request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County providing for the appointment of Board of Trustee members of the Green Hills Sewer and Water District. And this has to do with the process, right, Brandon?
That's correct, Chair.
Very good. Brandon Quinney, go ahead, take over.
Thank you. Commissioners, this resolution comes from some communications that we have recently had with the Green Hills Country Estates Water and Sewer Improvement District. They are requesting to have their board members appointed by the commission rather than elected by the members of the district. And this comes from just some time has lapsed where the board members have all reached the expiration of their term. This has been some years now where another election has not occurred. So under state code, the county commission can at any time by resolution provide for the appointment instead of board members. I believe this is just going to be a temporary way to allow the board members to continue serving as they are. We have posted for openings. As far as I know, most, if not all, of the same board members have applied for these positions, and then moving forward, we'll communicate with the district to see if they want to return to an election.
Very good, Brandon. We appreciate that. This is a process that we've elected to change here, and so we're going to go ahead and do it. I know there's some people here from that district. Is there anybody who would care to make a comment? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and go with this then. I'm open for a motion, Commissioners.
I would move to approve the resolution, and that resolution number is 01-2022 as presented on our agenda, but I'd like to make a comment as well with that.
Please.
So, I appreciate the current members that are serving on that board that have brought this issue to us. He actually sent a letter to the commission requesting this go forward with the appointment versus election. As we all know, a lot of times it's hard to get people that are interested in serving on some of these small sewer and water boards throughout the county. I've met with Miss Jean Brill about a week ago, went through some of the actions that they've taken, and I believe that they are headed in the right direction up there in Green Hill. So I believe that by going to the appointed versus the election helps them and will also help the county, making sure we have qualified people. And as of this morning, I heard we have actually 5 applications in, including 3 of the current board members. So I appreciate their willingness to continue to serve. But we'll deal with the appointments a week from today.
Very good, that's good. Commissioner Harvey, do you have any comments on that?
I'll second the motion.
Very good, so we'll call that a motion from Commissioner Faure in a second. I really don't have anything to say to that, so I'm going to place a motion and call it. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, so it's
Roll call.
unanimous.
This is a roll
that's yeah, that's roll call, I'm sorry. I knew that. Go ahead.
Okay, roll call vote for Resolution 01-2022. Commissioner Faure?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Chairman Jenkins?
Aye, that is unanimous. Thank you very much. I forget to go to that sometime. Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Commissioner.
you making a presentation today. So that will, the appointment of the members will be next week, okay? Very good. Item number 3 on our agenda today is approval of contract by and between Weber County and Elite Productions for the RMPRA Winter Series Rodeo. Duncan Olson. So Duncan, you just sit there because after this one we got 1, 2, 3 more.
Yep.
So go ahead.
I'm the
Go
main
to it.
attraction today, I guess. So this first one is a contract between us and the Winter Series Rodeo that we've held for the last several years. The contract is pretty much the same as what we've done. We started out with just doing an individual contract for the November Winter Series because we had a couple sticking points, but we wanted to make sure that we got it. And so we were very successful in November. We were very successful at Bull Wars over New Year's Eve, and we figure we should sponsor this again.
Very good. Any questions?
Not for me.
Commissioner Harvey?
No, I'll move for approval of that contract.
Very good. We have a motion to approve
I'll second that.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Very good. It's unanimous. Next item is request for approval of contract by and between Weber County and the American Chariot Racing Association for the ACR to be held at the Golden Spike Arena. Go ahead, Duncan.
Yeah, so this is pretty standard with what we've done with the Chariots the last few years. We kind of have stopped sponsoring so much, and we've put a little bit more pressure on them to pay for stalls and everything, but we are giving them a sponsorship for trade for a couple of the days on the racetrack.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that.
Nope.
Commissioner Harvey, do you have any questions on this one? It's kind of standard. It's in your portfolio.
No, and I'll move for approval.
Very good. Motion
Second.
and a second for Commissioner Faure. All in favor, say aye.
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 And it's approved unanimously. Very good. Next item up is a request for contract approval of a contract in Weber County and the Golden Spike Dog Training Club for their event coming up. Duncan?
Yeah, so this is one that's a little unique. It's different from a normal contract that I present with the new year and our new rates going into effect. This is one of the programs that's being affected because we're moving away from the hourly in our exhibit hall. It's not real cost effective for us. And so with that being said, we wanted to make sure that we gave them another season before they had to go find a different place to do this program. And so it's allowing them to hold their dog training classes for this next upcoming season.
Very good. Questions, Commissioner? Commissioner Harvey, do you have any questions?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Very good. That's unanimous. All right, next item up is number 6. That's a request for approval of contract by and between Weber County and Vegas Productions to hold the Jordanwood Circus at the Golden Spike Arena.
Yeah, so we're excited to have the circus back at the fairgrounds. This contract is before you mainly because we kind of alter the way we do our tickets. They have a lot of different outlets that they use, Groupon and other areas that they can get their tickets out in front of the kids. And so this kind of just alters the way that we're going to be charging them with our ticket service.
Very good. So this, it's been a few years since you've had circus.
Yeah, it has. They're really excited. I think their route's a little bit smaller than normal, but they were really excited to come back. We'll end up having 5 shows again. It'll be Friday, 2 on Saturday, and 2 on Sunday, coming up at the end of this month.
So that's the January show, huh?
Yep.
Oh, that's very good.
Good.
Question?
Answered my question about the date.
Commissioner Harvey, you got any questions or?
No, I'm not. The motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Very good. There's have a motion
Second.
and a second from Commissioner Faure. All in favor, say aye.
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 Unanimous. Thanks,
Thanks,
Duncan.
Commissioners.
We appreciate that. Sounds like you've got that place humming.
Yeah, we're off to a good start.
Good. Item 7 is discussion and action on final approval for the Saddlewood Estate subdivision consisting of 27 lots. Tammy Adelette. Tammy, how you doing?
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
You have before you a request for final approval of Saddlewood Estate subdivision. This is a lot average subdivision consisting of 27 lots. 4 roadways are proposed to be dedicated to Weber County to be used as a public right-of-way. Taylor West Weber, Hooper Irrigation, Central Weber Sewer have all given their final approval. And you'll see in your staff report a copy of the improvement guarantee agreement along with the letter of credit that's been approved by the county treasurer and the county attorney's office. Do you have any questions for me?
Commissioner Faure, any questions?
Just a clarification.
Sure.
So I met with Mr. John Bond yesterday. I'm assuming he's reviewed all the financing and has signed off on that?
He has, yes.
Okay, that's my only question. I'm
Very good. Commissioner Harvey, do you have any questions on the Saddlewood Estate subdivision?
No, not on Saddlewood, Mr. Chair.
Well, very good. So Tammy, have we answered all your questions?
Okay, staff would recommend approval of this subject to all review agency requirements prior to recording this subdivision.
Very good. We're ready for a motion then.
So moved.
I have a
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. So that's 3 ayes. Thanks, Tammy. Appreciate it. Next item is number 8. Request for approval of a franchise agreement between All West Utah for the purpose of installing, operating, and maintaining a communication system within the public rights-of-way in Weber County. Mr. Sean Wilkinson.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Good morning.
Commissioners, about a year ago, a franchise ordinance for All West Utah was approved, but they did not send a written acceptance of that ordinance within 60 days of its adoption, as was required, and therefore the franchise was terminated. This was simply an oversight, and All West is now requesting approval of a franchise agreement granting a non-exclusive franchise for the purpose of installing, operating, and maintaining a communication system within the public rights-of-way of Weber County. This agreement is almost identical to the agreement for Utah Broadband that was approved just a few weeks ago. And we are expecting another agreement coming in the future. So these franchise agreements will all be very similar. That helps us track them and make sure that things are done appropriately. But we are asking for approval of this agreement specifically for All West Utah today.
Very good. Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Faure?
Yeah, just a question if I might, Sean.
Sure.
So I thought that we approved All West on a franchise agreement for Ogden Valley. Am I mistaken?
We did a year ago. It was done in the form of an ordinance,
Okay.
but they never sent an acceptance of that ordinance as was required, and therefore the ordinance was void.
Got it.
So that's why we have to go back and do this as an agreement.
All right, so is their plan still to concentrate on Ogden Valley? We see all of Weber County, or have they changed their
They haven't told me exactly what they're going to do. I believe they are working in Ogden Valley right now in Huntsville, and they plan to expand out into the unincorporated area.
Okay. All right, good.
Very good. Commissioner Harvey, do you have any questions on this?
Motion to approve.
Very good. I have a motion from Commissioner Harvey
Second.
and a second from Commissioner Four. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. So that's 3.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. We appreciate that. Item 9 is a request for an approval by and between Weber County and Lamont McPherson for civil commitment evaluations. Brian Barron.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Brian, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good. So the county has an obligation under Utah code to pay for all of the costs associated with these civil commitment proceedings. And as part of those proceedings, the judge will appoint 2 professionals, medical professionals, psychiatrists, psychologists, to evaluate the person who's being considered for commitment and then to provide a recommendation to the judge. And we decided to enter into contracts with those evaluators to help bring more consistency and efficiency to the process. 4 of these contracts came before you last month and were approved. Dr. McPherson's contract was held up a little bit because he was a little late in applying, but all of the terms and conditions of this are the same as the other 4. Any questions for me about the process or about the contract?
No, I understand the process.
Okay. Commissioner Harvey, do you have any questions? Very good. I don't either, so I'm ready for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, a motion from Commissioner Four
Second.
and a second from Commissioner Harvey. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Very good. Thanks, Brian. We appreciate that. All right, and finally, on our agenda today, we're going to hold a public hearing. So I need a motion to adjourn this meeting and re-adjourn in a public hearing.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Harvey and a second from Commissioner Four. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. We are now in a public hearing. Item 1 on our public hearings to consider and take action on a request to adjust the zoning boundaries between AV3 and AV2 on approximately 5 acres located at 4708 East, 2650 North in Eden. Steve Burton isn't here. Charlie Ewert.
He decided to send the more attractive one.
There you go.
They're only laughing because they disagree.
His wife had a baby.
That's right. He had a baby, and well, his wife had a baby, and he
For him.
he was with her when that happened. Let me get my screen shared on Zoom. I think I am sharing. Can we get that up on the screen there? Perfect.
There you go. Look like you're there.
Okay. Okay, so on the agenda, it talks about essentially an adjustment to the CV2 and the AV3 zone in the Ogden Valley. This is related to the Eden Boat and RV storage. You guys will recall about a year or so ago, we adopted a zone and a development agreement for Eden Boat and RV storage. In that development agreement, there were some standards for architectural styling that were pretty stringent. They were stringent because the applicant had volunteered them, not because we had necessarily required them, but we were working with the applicant to try and make the site look attractive. So it's not just any old storage unit. It has a general design theme that goes with it. The new owner has asked for an amended agreement to do a couple of things. Number one, they adjusted some of the property boundaries, and he would like to see the zoning reflect what the actual boundaries are now. And so I'll show you what those boundaries are here in the agreement. Maybe.
Commissioner Four, in our work meeting yesterday, we went over this. You were late getting there.
Yeah.
Were you there when we went over these?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
No.
Well, this had to do with, I like what he's doing here because I like square boundaries and corners, and I like to know where everything is, and he's including all his property in this now, and I think that's very appropriate.
Does this have to do with the storage unit?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon. A lot of times we'll see a rezone and speculation for a future development, and then once the property boundaries actually get set, sometimes they're not exactly what the rezone boundaries were. So that's why we're calling it an adjustment. There was a comment that I received from a member of the public. I don't know what technology's doing, not helping me for sure. A member of the public mentioned that it sounds like we're just rezoning because part of the public posting was to rezone property from AV3 to CV2. We just want to make sure it's clear we're just adjusting the boundary to be what the actual property boundaries are. There isn't going to be any more development or greater development in the CV2 zone that is possible. Just making the entire parcel be CV2.
But we do want people to understand that we're doing this specifically to create this zone so the development is appropriate, zoned appropriately.
There is an amendment that I made to the development agreement, working with the applicant yesterday and after your meeting, and then this morning got some adjusted conceptual plans, and so I'm going to pass those out to you guys right now.
Thank you, sir.
So if you flip to the very back page, nope, second, third.
Right.
Yep. So those are the adjusted building designs. From what the Planning Commission saw, they didn't actually see specifically these building designs. The one on the bottom in called Building B, that is one of the ones that the Planning Commission saw. But the other ones above are ones that I received this morning. When the Planning Commission did look at the ones that they had proposed before, they didn't seem to have any concerns. They didn't mention architectural issues other than, well, for example, what the development agreement originally suggested, as volunteered by the previous owner, was reclaimed wood, siding, as well as a number of other agrarian features that would go in with it, Z-bar or X-bar molding to make it kind of look more that barn feel. But I didn't get the sense from the majority of the Ogden Valley Planning Commission that they were concerned about the type of design that they're going for here. One of the things that they did do, though, is they mentioned as part of their conditions of approval that maybe it should go back to the Ogden Valley Planning Commission when it comes to design because a design wasn't set as a formal proposal. After yesterday's meeting with you guys, you mentioned that you didn't have a lot of concerns with what they were proposing. And so just to make things easier for the landowner, I would recommend, if you're comfortable with it, simply adjusting the development agreement to be what's in front of you right now, which is essentially an approval of the architectural design. I also adjusted the language in the development agreement itself to reflect that.
Very good. So the only real concern when we talked about this yesterday, Commissioner, was the cupolas on top of these buildings. They're simply decorative to make this feel a little more of a barn feel. And they had them on every building and didn't want them, especially the buildings that had the roof going in a single direction. We agreed with that. We thought that was smart. So we give them the okay to abandon them on those buildings as long as they kept them on the buildings that had a split drainage on the roof. So the roof was centered and drained both ways. And they agreed to that, and so it's just that simple. No more than that.
I have a question, if I might, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So just so I'm on board with this, so the first thing we're talking about under the rezone is really just making sure that the zone fits within the boundaries, the legal description of the property.
That's right.
On the 5-acre side, is that correct?
Yeah, and
So
that's the new description as you'll see
Right.
on page 17.
So all that does is somebody pulls up a tax ID number with a particular 5-acre piece of property, it's going to be in the same zone rather than
That's
2 or
right.
3.
Rather than split zoning. Yep.
Okay, so I think that makes good sense. The second one, and I have met with the petitioner before and talked about the design, so this is not new information. But it basically just changes the development agreement so that some of the exterior cupolas, et cetera, are less intrusive on what they want to do.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yep, it is, and it gives them the opportunity to put, for example, they're going to do metal siding, painted metal siding instead of the wood, reclaimed wood.
Okay. All
It'll
right.
last a little longer that way.
Okay, I think I'm okay with those.
Yeah. You know, I think it's going to be a nice development. It'll be down below the brow of the hill where most people won't see it, and if you're able to see any part of it, it'll just be those cupolas on the roof.
That's right.
So it'll look real good from there. Very good. Is that it, Charlie?
That is. Any other questions for me on this project?
No, not for you. So
Great.
I want to take a break here and give the people a chance to comment on this project.
Okay, sounds great.
So while we're on this, I'd like to go to public comment now. So the owners are here. If you'd care to comment, if not, that's fine. Others in the audience that are here to comment on this public hearing, now's your time. We'd love to hear from you on this. Oh, I'm a little surprised.
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like anybody wants to talk about this.
Wow.
Okay. Well-
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to adjourn our public hearing.
Oh, we got one more item, Gage.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, item 3.
Oh, sorry.
Public hearing to consider and take action on a
Page.
proposed rezone and associated development agreement of 87 acres at 2650 West, 1200 South. This property's bounced around. It's been for sale for several years now, and it's landed with this new developer. So, Charlie, we're going to go to you on this now. Are you going to try again?
Yeah, I'm going to try again. We'll see if this does it for me. If not, I'll explain it with words.
It'd be kind of nice if we could get this up. This is a fairly large one, and I'd like people to be able to see it.
Forgive me, Commissioners. I'm going to close out, open it, see if we can get it that way. If not, I'm just going to go to the maps and walk you through the actual property.
It goes to this point right here, doesn't it? And then won't download any further.
Seems to work just fine up in the office, but as soon as we get down to this building, or this room here, it's not. Doesn't seem to talk to the network as easily, but
Where's Quinn Fires when you need him? There you go.
okay.
That's farther than you got on the last one.
Let's see if I can get down further. Okay,
If it'll
here we are.
download it all, there you go.
All right. Okay, so this is the property. Let's get it square on the screen. So this property is just over the river bridge on 12th Street. It's between the river and 2800 West. What you'll see here in front of you, kind of a bubble map of where the prospective zones will go. Good gracious. where essentially they're requesting to have the C2 zone, the commercial zone, up against the highway here, and then kind of wrap it around in this direction back towards the river in the back. And then the RE20 zone in this direction back here, and then RE15. RE15, 15,000 square foot minimum lot sizes, RE20, 20,000 square foot minimum lot sizes. As part of this agreement, we're working with the new Master Plan Development Overlay Zone as well, which gives the County Commission quite a bit of discretion to allow for additional types of uses, different standards to be applied, all kinds of different modifications to what the traditional zoning would allow or require. In the C2 zone, they are requesting to have some multifamily back behind commercial uses. So as we sat down with the developer and worked with the Planning Commission on this project as well, we agreed that the street here would be preserved as a commercial corridor with street-facing commercial uses. Residential, multifamily residential could go above the first floor if that first floor is street-facing commercial uses. I think the long-range plan is to try and get a grocery store here, a convenience or store or gas station here, and then essentially just street-oriented commercial with multifamily above. And then the potential of having some apartment complexes and townhomes back in this area here. Well into the discussions and negotiation of development of this property, the brand new FEMA firm maps were produced. And previously, none of this area, as you can see kind of shadowed underneath it, was in the floodplain. Now all of it is. So I'm just kind of tracing where the new floodplain is. It just follows that tree line underneath there. And so that intrudes in quite a bit of where their multifamily would go, as well as some of their single family would go. They've got the option to do floodplain development. In working with the county engineer, it seems prudent for them to go through the FEMA firm map amendment process in order for them to do floodplain development. I mean, that could take quite a bit of time and quite a bit of engineering expense for them to do. An alternative to that we discussed with them was the option to just cluster whatever development they would otherwise get out of that floodplain in the area that isn't floodplain, kind of on the periphery here. And so we do have a conceptual layout that you see in your packets in the development agreement, but there's a potential for that conceptual layout to be quite a bit different, just because where the 20-acre or 20,000 square foot lots and the 15,000 square foot lots are going, a lot of that is just going to be collapsed down into a smaller footprint closer to 2800 West. In the writing of the agreement itself, that's where we put a lot of the different standards in there. We're almost writing a new zone for these guys, essentially, with the MPD overlay zone, just not applying a new zone.
Say that just again. You say we're almost rewriting a zone.
It's almost like, yeah, with applying the master plan development overlay zone, it's almost like writing a new zone. And so that's why the development agreement is as thick as it is, trying to provide for them the standards that they are hoping to get for a development where we didn't have specific zoning types that would work for them in that. Specifically, mixed use and commercial is where most of that comes in. But now that we've got the issue of the floodplain, condensing some of those single-family residential onto smaller lots, I think, becomes appropriate. So in the development agreement, we say all the lots along 2800 West, they have to be at least 15,000 square feet. So what the minimum of the zone is, 15,000 square feet. And we did that just so that the surrounding landowners just have a buffer between that and the smaller lot sizes. Behind that, in the development agreement, we said they can get lots as small as 6,000 square feet, which is the same size of lot that you have in your R1 zone. So it's essentially one of the medium density residential zones. And then behind that, they could get multifamily. And so you kind of see a tiered approach coming away from 2800 West to going eastward of larger lots, smaller lots, and then multifamily. And I anticipate the multifamily would probably kind of arc in this area here around the floodplain. And then in exchange for that, they have committed to drawing a boundary around that entire floodplain and dedicating that land either to the county, to a municipality, or to a parks district for the purpose of having a nature park. We have asked for public improvements in that park, like bathrooms, nature pathways, stuff like that. So there'd be some amenities for the public, and it would stay open and undeveloped, which I know Marriott Slaterville was anxious about the possibility of having any development in the floodplain. There's a high likelihood in the future that Marriott Slaterville wants this little corner, especially if there's a retail tax base coming out of it. Whether that be in the near future or long-term future, we don't know. But we do have a paragraph in the development agreement that obligates the landowner and any successive landowner, including any lot owner or condo owner in the future, to not protest an annexation to Marriott Slaterville, similar to what we talked about with JDC Ranch up in Plain City. The other thing that the public is going to be getting out of this project is a river walkway, so an extension of the Weber River Parkway that currently exists. Right now, there's not a way to get from the far side, the south side of the railroad tracks to the north side. But once we do figure out how to span that gap, this will be a good addition to that, just as it lines this property from essentially their boundary to 2800 west there. They're also going to take that pathway and surround the entire parcel. So they'll run it up 2800. They'll either go around the existing the two residential lots that are there, or with those residential landowners' permission, and this is written in the development agreement that way, they could go across the front along 2800 with that pathway, and then cross 12th Street with the same pathway. So essentially you'll have a 10-foot wide multi-use pathway surrounding this property. We've asked for that pathway to be tree-lined and shaded. Most of the pathway is going to be in this area here, so most of it will be tree-lined by the existing trees. So there's benefit to that as well. See if there's anything else that we... one concern that I have on going this approach, let me take you to the bubble diagram. Actually, this map here. This is the crosshatch area is the area that the MPD overlay zone would be applied. So when you look at our zoning map, you'll see this polygon in MPD overlay. You've got the county property, which is right here, almost all of it in the floodplain. Originally, the applicants wanted to see if they could buy that property from the county to include as part of their development. But now that it's known that it's in the floodplain, they're not quite as interested in it. And so in the agreement, it's written that they will provide a pathway along the river as long as Weber County allows it to go here. If Weber County doesn't want it to go across the county property right there on that river bank, they're obligated to go around the property in whatever manner the county requires them to go. Okay. Another point to note, and I think we've got some of the neighboring landowners here, we do have two residential land uses here, and so this project will surround that. We have asked for an 8-foot masonry wall to separate the uses. If these landowners, my suggestion is if these landowners want the benefit of the RE15 zone, we should probably just give it to them now. If you guys are comfortable doing so, and if they're here to say that they would like it, they won't be burdened with the same development agreement obligations. They'd just be able to develop at the 15,000 square foot minimum, which is will essentially reflect what's happening across the street. I'm going to take you to their concept plan. I'm afraid to scroll through this too fast, otherwise it won't load. The applicant has volunteered to install essentially good neighbor or neighborhood-friendly lighting, which is kind of like dark sky lighting. It just we don't put a limit on how many lumens they can produce. For example, in the Ogden Valley, dark sky lighting, we put a limit on how many lumens can be produced in parking lots to no more than 2 lumens per square foot of parking area. We don't have any kind of requirement like that. We just say downward directed and shielded, so a full cutoff shielded so that the light's not projecting onto the neighbor's property. That way, if they do the neighbors do have a parking lot right next door, they're not going to have the bright lights of that parking lot shining into their bedroom windows. And the applicants are comfortable with that, and they volunteered for that. Okay, now it wants to think. I was almost there too. As it's thinking, see if I could just explain. So their concept plan shows development as if the floodplain isn't going to be a hindrance. Here it is.
There you go.
So you can see just where the earth tone is, the aerial imagery. These are the 15,000 square foot lots. These are the 20,000 square foot lots. Multifamily street-oriented housing, which the development agreement does explain that is housing that faces the street, is typically condominiums or row housing, essentially. And then multifamily housing that isn't street-oriented, that you could anticipate seeing either condominiums or apartments in that area. And then street-oriented mixed-use commercial. Where we know that floodplain now goes around this boundary right here, I do anticipate that the final product won't look quite like this. And so one of the benefits that could come out of working a little bit more with the applicant could be potentially be a different concept map that kind of shows where those bubbles will be. But I'm not so concerned about it that I'm not willing to recommend approval. The acknowledgement or the understanding that the floodplain is here instead of right up in here was something that was discovered after the Planning Commission looked at this. And so putting in a cluster development with a bunch of open space wasn't something the Planning Commission considered. But the amount of density and overall impact of the development on existing roads and infrastructure won't change. In fact, it'll probably be less because there's going to be less water going on the land. Secondary.
Charlie, does the Corps of Engineers allow you to go in there and fill that floodplain and build out of it?
There is a process to do that. So you have to file a conditional letter of map amendment or map revision, excuse me, and that's with FEMA, not the Corps.
Oh, it's FEMA?
Yeah, so you'd file that with FEMA. FEMA will study it, essentially. They'll verify that. So when you file that amendment, you have to have all the hydrology, engineering, everything, knowing exactly how much fill you're going to bring in and how much water that's going to displace. If that displaces water onto adjacent properties above a certain threshold, they'll probably tell you no or get permission from the adjacent property owner. If you can get it through the FEMA process without them finding significant, what do they call it, impacts, essentially. If they can get through the process without finding significant impacts, then they'll approve it. It'll be called a conditional letter of map, or excuse me, a letter of map amendment. That letter of map amendment is attached to the FEMA firm maps. And then at the next time that they go in and amend all those public maps, they'll add those amendments in. So there's a way to do it. It takes a while to do. It's a federal process, and so there's some issues there. That's the project. Any questions, anything I didn't explain well enough that I can clarify?
You know, it's interesting, this property was, there's a gentleman I know, his name was Buck Martindale. He used to be a factory rep that called on us. And his son, Tom, took his firm over after they after he passed. And Tom's wife, their family owns this property. So Tom, after he got out of the business, became a realtor, and so he's a listing agent on this. And so I've been aware of this property for some time. And, you know, it's amazing. It all really comes down to economics. You take property like this, it's not easy to develop, and it all really comes down to when property values hit a point where you can now afford to develop it, and that's kind of what's happened now. It's finally get to the point where people who develop can afford to do this. So it's interesting to see this come along. Commissioner Farrar, you got any questions on this?
I do. A couple of questions.
Go ahead.
So, Charlie, you talked about the trails. We know that Marriott Slaterville has made a proposal about extending some of their trails. So I'm assuming you have the easements as required to take care of these future trails so we don't have to deal with that?
Yeah, in the agreement, we are requiring them to not only give the easement, but also install the trail.
Okay, install the trails. Second question, I believe that this is a state road, 1200 south to 47 is a state road, is that correct?
That's correct.
So have you had discussions with UDOT as far as the easement? Because as you well know, the county spent a substantial amount of money from 4700 west and will continue down to the side on 9350 west. But at some point, and we've had some discussions with UDOT, we need to make sure the state upgrades their portion from 1900 down to 4700. I want to make sure that the easements are in place with UDOT so we don't slow that process down.
Yeah, so we have in the development agreement, well, first off, first part of your question, I haven't had any discussions in person with UDOT on this project. The applicant has represented to me that they've had preliminary discussions with UDOT, but they don't have a final access agreement with UDOT. In the development agreement, we say, first off, that they will get those from UDOT. Second off, that the county will exact from them the exact right-of-way width that UDOT wants them to. If UDOT wants less than the county would otherwise have on a road like this, then the developer is obligated to dedicate exactly what the county wants. And then we'll just hold the extra space until UDOT says we're ready. That way, public dollars don't have to go into buying frontages.
Okay, so yeah, I'm not as concerned about access as I am about the potential. So you say it will be in the development agreement that whatever right-of-way that UDOT requires, that we will have the ability to acquire that at no cost to the county.
That's right. Okay. Exactly.
Yeah,
and we'll get that at the time that they file subdivision.
And I would say that as part of any motion comes forward, I would ask you to contact UDOT so that we know. So we continue to hear from UDOT that they come in after the fact rather than before the fact. So please reach out to UDOT. That will be, if any motion comes forth, will be part of my motion that we get UDOT confirmation that they have been notified of this and that we have at least a preliminary interest in what they need as far as easement.
Perfect. Can do.
So, and the reason for that is to keep them informed.
Yeah. Sounds good. We can do that.
Great. Commissioner Harvey, question?
No questions.
Very good. So this is a part of the public hearing now where we go to the public, the developers there, if you would care to say anything. And you don't have to. Just an invitation. Please state your name.
Dave Laloli. Just quickly to the UDOT question, we did have a pre-application meeting with them. I believe Tucker Waite was on the call as well. They were okay with the accesses. As far as the right-of-way stuff, we didn't really discuss that, but just thought I would mention we did have the pre-app, and Weber County was represented there. So, any questions for me?
Question?
No, I would just make sure that that right-of-way that they request, because that's going to be very critical for that entire section of state road.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Great. Other citizens that would care to stand and comment now? I know we have some property owners that are adjacent to that. We would invite you at this time to come up and just state your name, please. I remember when you used to walk a little more upright than you do now.
I'm just a year younger than you, that's all.
You're older than Commissioner Frohr, though.
Yes, I am. Dan Hammer.
Makes a difference.
We live in the property that is just adjacent, right next to it.
Right.
One of the things that we would like to ask of you is what Charlie talked about, and that is for our property to be considered as part of the rezoning for the RE, is it 5 or 15?
15, RE15.
The RE15. Another thing we like to ask of the developers is the building lots right adjacent to our property, right next to our property, stay as single-family dwellings instead of a multiple family. And we also looked at it and thought that it would be good if the single-family dwellings could be from the 2700 road back to the power lines. that all from the power lines west would stay as single-family dwelling units. Another thing I have a concern with is that the irrigation system there for our property, the main head gate will be on the commercial property in which they will have. The farmer or the people that were farming the ground prior to this development had a drip system. So they created the pond right there, okay? And we'd like to see the developer cut the outlet to the pond and put a end to that. No matter how good your irrigation system is, you always have some leakage. And if they'd put a stop to that, then we wouldn't have any leakage in that far. Now, the irrigation ditch at the end of my property continues and goes east, and that will be part of their commercial property, and I was hoping that we could get them to put a stop there at the end of my property for that irrigation system. And I also noticed on the plan that we did not see anything for a secondary water system. So I was wondering if that was still going to be installed there as part of the development. And I think that's about it. Is there anything? I'll look to my boss back there.
Charlie, you've made note of all those, right?
I did, yeah.
Very good. Thanks, Dan.
And especially, I'd like to say special thanks to Charlie, because we've talked with him a couple of times, and he's been more than willing to keep us informed, and so has Dave, who's talked with us as well. All right.
It's been good. You know, development in the proximity to you is not easy, and so you will do the best you can to work out with each other. I know Hooper Water at one time looked at that pond. I don't know if they've done any more of that, but at one time they did. Others in the audience would care to come up and comment. Just state your name, and if you live in a city or unincorporated Weber, that's either.
I'm Kurt Linford. I live next to Dan.
Oh.
And one of my concerns is that the old Hooper irrigation pipes are really old too. So if they get any heavy equipment on it, it's going to, damage and could blow out onto my property. And also the new junction that East Farm that was Renton put in, it leaks between there. So it's a new box, but it leaks between them. So I don't know. I just think maybe it's Hooper Irrigation that needs to do their improvements in there too. So, and me and my wife are okay with the RE 15. So that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I know Hooper Irrigation's involved with this. They've submitted a application for an ARPA fund grant to help fund a revision of that water line. That's part of their overall plan. Now, I don't know what'll end up happening there, but I do know that's happened. Please come forward here.
Becky Hammer, right next to this property. I happen to know, because I was living there, those pipes are at least, the irrigation pipes, at least 50 years old and have not had any maintenance done to them. So weight is an issue, which that was why the pipes were put in, is because the county dump trucks broke the bridge, the original bridge. So they buried that. Yeah. So, and the head gate was switched out by the farmers without any discussion with us. And like Kurt said, it has leaked ever since they changed it. So we don't get the flow we should get. I would ask that they would consider, when they put that 8-foot wall, which is fine, but that the head gate for us to get our irrigation water will be on their side. So we need some sort of access so that we don't have to drive a mile around to turn our water on. So that
Makes sense.
that's a big thing. The other thing I'm really concerned about is that floodplain. That's, Scott talked about filling it in, and that is our berm that protects us from flood. I have lived there all my life, and I have seen in the last 45 years 2 floods that have brought that water out of the river clear up to that tree line next to that
Have you
field.
ever, in your lifetime, has it ever got out of the tree line and actually to 12th Street?
No,
So it's all
not in
stayed-
my lifetime.
Yeah, I just wondered.
But it does go to those trees.
Right.
So if you were to fill that up, we have no protection.
Well,
It did come to the corner from the 2800 access. It did fill up that corner because there's a drain in that corner for the fields, for the irrigation water to flow. But if the river increases up above, which it did both times, the water flows back into the field.
If they are able to go and modify this in any way, they'll have to build almost like a dam along the river. It'll have to be higher than that to protect it, because they'll have homes in there. So you're right on that. If they're able to change that, they'll have to protect that.
So I would ask that you really think about not building. In the conception plan that they have, there are lots, and the whole row of those houses are on half ground, half, the elevation drops. And I don't want them to fill it up or to take those trees out that help protect. However, the county has taken plenty out in that strip, in their gravel pit. It's more of a dig and dump area than anything.
Oh, the county's been using that as fill area for years.
Yeah, they also dig gravel out of the river, which isn't legal. So, like my husband asked, I would hope that they would do the single family along the west side and up along our north side of single homes, so that we don't have, I don't want apartments and townhomes, tall buildings. Have they said how tall these, how many levels these are going to be?
Not to us. They're working with planning.
You kind of take the family feel out of the whole place when you start putting in apartments and
You bet.
multi-level. But yeah, if they would make sure we had access through that wall to the irrigation. And I like the idea of the dark sky. And I kind of like to know where their secondary water. They talk about a pond, but they keep moving it. The last I heard, it was in the wet plains in the river bottoms. So I think we need to consider those things before we pass anything definite.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate that comment. Others that would care to come and comment on this? State your name and where you live, please.
Oh, Jim Flynn, 1576 Far West Drive.
Thank you, Jim.
Project engineer. Just wanted to give an update on the secondary water pond. Hooper Irrigation actually contacted the developers about, with a little bit of excitement about modifying the pond into a secondary water pond. But they're looking also at a long-term transitional aspect of moving a master pond for the area further to the west. So that is the plan, to use the pond now. And I remember their plan that they brought to the table included some piping, and we certainly want to make sure any leaking piping is taken care of. But that is the plan right now, as I understand it, is to utilize the pond for secondary water. Then in the future, it'll actually get relocated to a location westerly.
Thank you, Jim. I think this comes down to their application for ARPA funds, if they get funds or not.
For the pond.
Right.
Yeah.
Name and
Afternoon,
location.
Commissioners.
please.
How are you?
Good.
My name's Brent Hipwell. I live in West Weber. I kind of have the same old gripe. We're doing a lot of rezoning out west, but we're waiting on a master plan to allow the citizens of the western Weber County to vent, or at least have an opinion on the mannerism of the growth out west. And we keep hearing we're going to do the master plan, but we modify the old one, which is way outdated. We all know this. We've hashed this all over before. But with this area, I hate to say it, when I was younger, that was a party central where we used to go have our little bonfires and drink our little beers, and, you know, we're adults now. And so I know the area very well down there, and he's right, that shaded tree area will flood. I seen it in 82, I seen it in 83. Right down the stream back in 55, it jumped Scott Hansen's property and flooded all of my grandfather's property all the way to 4700. And I work with engineers, and you hear engineers say, well, we've dug the river out. That will never happen again. Well, never say never when it comes to engineering. And so my concern is we're kind of putting the cart in front of the horse, because we have no real plan. He still shows houses being built in that floodplain. Why are we approving a zoning ordinance change when we don't know what they're building? I had the same gripe on 12th and 4700. Well, we want to change the zoning, but we don't know what we're building there yet. I think would be more well served as voters in western Weber County if, when these zoning changes come to us, we know what's happening. Right now, we don't know what they're building there. We're going to change the zoning, make it allowable for them to do something, but we don't know what. And I don't think that's the intent of the master plan. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments.
Les Syme. I live at 2032 West 700 South in Marriott, Slaterville. Commissioners, thank you for taking the time to listen to the residents. I have concerns. Will Marriott Slaterville City be forced to annex this property into the city? Do you know that?
Though we will not be forced to.
Can't force them to, no.
Yeah, we can't force them to do that.
No.
Okay, so I'm on the planning commission for the city. We've had concerns.
Marriott Slaterville?
Yes, sir. I'm
Okay.
the chair.
There you go. Thank you.
And once again, I know what it takes to do this.
Have to come from the city,
Yes.
the annexation.
I doubt we would stand in your way if you wanted to do that.
The problems we run into is some of the residents, they came before us probably a year and a half ago, were looking at being annexed in, then they tried to become a city. That wasn't feasible for them. They didn't have a tax base. Our problems with this, along with the residents, is, you know, you're coming right next to Marriott Slaterville, whether it's and then West Weber is right there. So it's like we're looking at annexing. Nobody's even talked with us. The developers came in, talked a little bit about what they were doing, and it doesn't fit into the plans that we have as far as the city, trying to keep nice open space. What was mentioned in the master plan. We open our master plan, listen to the residents, say, what do you guys want to see? We know we have to have a certain amount of high-density housing, but and our city meets that at this point. And we know it does. We've had discussions on that. What worries me is 75% of the monies we spend on the police department goes for our high-density housing. That's where most of the calls go. And you're talking about a lot of houses, a lot of high-density housing there. I don't think it's going to stay Weber County forever. Whether it's West Weber takes it or Marriott Slaterville looks at it. At this point, I just left meeting with the city. There's a big contingent that don't want to annex. They didn't come to us for the reason they came to you guys first. Weber County, it's like going to mom, so to speak, get permission to do what they want to do, because you guys have are more inclusive to developers, high density stuff. If they came to us, we annexed it in originally, they would be restricted to 1 acre lots, things of that nature, which leads to our environment in the city that we've tried to maintain. So I worry about what's going in there. Weber County has a different ordinances than we do. We have dark sky ordinance now, and I don't know if Weber County has that or not. I hope they look into it. If they don't have, especially in the country, that's why we put it in, for that purpose.
We do in the Upper Valley, but we don't here.
And yeah, so the Upper Valley is beautiful, it should have it, so should everybody. So hopefully you'll look into that too. What's a big concern, and I have pictures in 2011 of that property flooded. I believe our mayor, Van Leeuwen, has sent pictures to the county attorney showing this stuff, and with a letter about his concerns about building, allowing any building in that floodplain. So from the city, those are, and not just city, me personally, those are my concerns of the development going in there. Is the floodplain is a definite. 2011 was the last time it flooded. It's going to keep flooding. If they build berms, it's going to force it on to the properties on the other side. So I don't know what the county allows, what you go off of. I know they got a new FEMA floodplain coming out that shows all of that. Isn't a big portion of that is in the floodplain, but I'm sure you are aware of those. So those are my concerns, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I'm appreciative of you coming from your city to testify today. We thank you for doing that. I know that most times you take off work to do it, and we appreciate that. Others that have come to testify today. Greg Bell. Good to have you here today, Greg.
Thanks. I'm Greg Bell. I live in Taylor. A couple of things I just wanted to point out is along the same lines of a couple other things that have been spoken, but I know Commissioner Jenkins, you're really firm on land rights, and one thing that I think you and I disagree a little bit with is how land rights are issued. Right now, the land rights limit that developer to 1 lot per acre, and what you're doing today is granting him additional land rights. And I don't think that that's something that should be taken lightly. Obviously, if you do choose to grant those land rights, he'll have land rights that nobody else in western Weber County possesses. This is the only residential zone in all of unincorporated Weber County. And, you know, a year later, $100,000 and 1 public meeting is all that's been done to gather public input on what our communities should look like in western Weber County. So I think it's a little premature to grant these land rights when we haven't had any input from the public as far as what they want their communities to look like. We already just heard from Marriott Slaterville. They have a certain standard that they're trying to maintain. So if they eventually end up annexing this property, it wouldn't fit within their plans. And whatever new city does eventually become, if they end up with this land, will it or will it not fit into their plans? We don't know because we haven't had public input on that. So I guess that's my comments there. The only other thing that I want to make sure is that I'm sure you're aware of this, but maybe just for public awareness, your role in this moment is to represent the people of unincorporated Weber County. You put on many hats as county commissioners, but at this time you're supposed to represent those in that community on what they want their community to look like. So I'd just like you to consider for a moment how you think the people of western Weber County would like to have this developed. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. We appreciate your comments. Others that would care to comment today? Well, it appears that we're at the end of people caring to comment. So with that, Commissioner Farrar, do you want to close this?
Yes, I'd like to move to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene as a public meeting this time.
Very good. We have a motion. Commissioner Harvey, are you still on?
Yeah, second.
Wow.
Second.
I got it. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we are out of the public hearing and back to a regular meeting. I appreciate all the comments today. They're well taken, and Charlie's been taking notes on those. Greg, I appreciate your warning. He's a previous member of our planning commission, has done a great job there, and so it's good to have him here and his comments today. Well, action today. We don't have to take action on any of these, but if you'd like to, they're on the agenda to do so. Item G2 is the first one on approval of the rezone of the 5 acres up in Eden.
Mr. Chair, for G2, I'm in favor of that. I think that makes good sense, so I would move to approve we take action to adjust the zoning boundary between AV3 and CV2 on that approximately 5 acre parcel of ground.
Very good.
Second.
Was that a second?
Yes.
Okay. It's hard to hear everything. I agree with this myself. I think it's an appropriate motion. So we have a motion by Commissioner Farrar and a second by Commissioner Harvey. I'll call the motion. All in favor say aye.
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 An aye from me. So that's unanimous, all 3 ayes. Very good. So on the rezone, item G3, I'd like to talk about that for just a moment. I actually, Greg's warning, I want to go over that just a little bit. I don't have any problem with the RE15 and RE20s. I think that's very appropriate. When I look at the what we just did over on the
point of order,
yes.
Mr. Chair. So G2 deals with Eden rezone.
Yeah. Did I say G2?
Yeah.
Oh, I meant G3.
G3.
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on G3 now.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't have a problem with the rezones of RE20s and RE15s. I think that's appropriate, but we're putting a C2 zone in there, and the C2 is that's a commercial zone. Of course, you can argue the fact that's an appropriate place to put commercial is on that main corridor, 12th Street going west, because that's how you build communities. You buffer the residential areas by putting commercial in there, and you buffer that so that the residents don't feel the impact so much. But to Greg's point, we are getting ready to have our hearings on West Weber County and our master plan remodification. We've done a little more than you represented, Greg. We have spent a great deal of time on it, but we are to the stage where we're getting ready to hold those hearings out there and redo that master plan. And these folks are on the front end of that by probably, I was hoping it'd only be a month or 6 weeks, but Charlie, you represented to us the other day, you thought it was more in the 10-week period.
I think about the end of March would probably be a reasonable expectation.
Yeah. Well, that's my only comment. Commissioner Farrar?
Well, and I don't disagree with that, and I'm prepared to make a motion whenever you're ready.
Yeah, the floor is yours if you'd care to do it.
So I would move to hold agenda item G3 for a future meeting to be determined. In my opinion, there's some unanswered questions here we've been through. Secondary water is a big deal in my mind. We know that the floodplain exists out there. even though that's out of our control directly, I would like to have more input from the Corps or FEMA on exactly how we're going to handle those issues. I would encourage the other part of this, before I would consider this again, and I agree with you, Commissioner Jenkins, we've started this process on Western Weber County planning that should take place the next 2 to 3 months. This is kind of the integral part of what that's going to look like, so I think it's important that we make sure that that's heard. I'd also say that we've heard some concerns from the adjacent landowners. I would like that addressed in detail. Secondary water, irrigation water, what surrounds those homes in the future becomes very critical. I would rather have that solidified and agreed to now rather than have complaints come to us in 6 months or a year. So something's going to change on this property, we know that, but I don't think it's, at least in my opinion, Mr. Chair,
right.
We may be, this is a little premature. We've got a lot of questions in my mind that before I'm a yes vote on this need to be answered. UDOT, floodplain, adjacent landowners, secondary water. So that'd be my motion to hold.
Okay, so we have a motion. Commissioner.
Second with a comment.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner.
I appreciate the comments that were made today. And one of the things I just want to make sure is understood that there was mentioned about the rezoning out at 4700 and 12th Street. That was done because we decided to take action and not just do nothing as was done before. Since the 2003, the former master plan was done out there in 2003, where this should have always been done, but it would never got done. We did what we were supposed to do, and we took the proper action in that corridor. I have some concerns with moving another corridor for commercialization right there. I have some concerns there. I have some concerns as it relates to density. I will just remind this body that's listening that the reason we are we're in the process of a master plan. We would have had this done, but we listened to the people and allowed them to speak their minds and exercise their right to be heard through a petition and through voting. And that didn't work out. So otherwise, this master plan would have been done. And I think former Commissioner Bell knows that. And so it's good that we're doing it now. I'm happy we're moving forward with it, but we wanted to make sure that the people were heard and got a right to vote on what would be right. And so with that, I'm with Commissioner Furr on this. I'm going to okay to hold it.
Very good, thank you. So I have a motion and a second. I also want to make a comment here. I've talked with Hooper Water on this secondary, and they are in a position to provide secondary to this area, and they're planning on doing it. Now, how they're going to do it depends on if they get a grant or not. But they are planning on doing it. As far as the rezones of this area, we just approved a subdivision in Plain City, with some variations, and we have the ability to do that as a county because it's in our ordinances. And so I didn't feel like we were weighing too heavy on Plain City to do that. And I feel the same thing about this right here. This is not in Marriott-Slaterville. It's in the county. And for us to go to 3rd and half-acre lots, I don't have a qualm at all about that. The commercial side, I do. That is a question I have. And the reason I'm going to vote with you two to hold this is because of the master plan. I absolutely admit that. I think, frankly, my feeling is this is going to fit right into the master plan because I think we ought to zone that area for these very things. So I'm all in favor of that. But to hold this until we get that through, at the warning of some of the folks here, I think is probably appropriate because we're very close to having that done. So I'm okay with that. Now, Charlie, you stood back up. Do you have a comment you'd care to make?
I was just about to ask if there was a date certain to table, but if it's what I just heard until after the master plan, I got my question answered. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's our desires, to hold it through the master plan.
Let's get that done first.
People out there want to understand what's coming, and this is a perfect example. This needs to be fit right into it. And so I anticipate this will be held right up till the last of March. I suspect the developer, Pat, you guys are there, and I suspect this is when that'll be held to. But just so you know, I warm right up to this. I think this is appropriate, what they've asked for here. And if there's no big change through this planning process, I anticipate I'll be a yes vote on this in the end. So with that in mind, I have a motion and a second here. I'm going to call that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Okay, I'm going to take that as an aye. It's hard to hear him. Very good.
Commissioners, item G2 is intended to be an ordinance.
Oh, was it? So you're saying that needs to be a roll call vote?
Correct.
Oh.
Okay, go ahead and call it.
Do we need to change the motion on that too, to call out the ordinance number?
I think not. I think the motion was made appropriately.
I think as long as we just clarify in the minutes for each
So
vote.
we're talking going back to G2.
Yes.
G3.
G2.
Oh, G2.
G2.
Right.
That was not, so we approved that, but it needed to be a roll call.
I would just indicate if each were in affirmative of voting for it, that we just reflect that in the minutes.
Okay. So do you want?
That is listed as an ordinance on here.
Correct. Yeah, we'll amend that.
Yeah.
In fact, it's not an ordinance. That's a rezone. That is an ordinance.
So we rezone by ordinance. It's not
Oh, do
going
we?
into the code book, but it's technically an ordinance.
Okay.
Both of them
Well,
are.
go ahead. Go ahead and call that then. So
Let's call it.
we're bringing up the motion, Commissioner Harvey, on G2. We're going to have a roll call vote on that. So go ahead and call that.
Okay, roll call vote for item G2, the ordinance number 2022-01. Commissioner Frohr.
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey.
Aye.
Chairman Jenkins.
Aye. Very good. Thank you very much. Keep us out of trouble here. Thanks, Chris. Very good. Commissioner comments. That's the next item up.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would just make comments.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
It's great to see this many people show up for commission meeting and have their input heard. This is what it's all about. We all know that Weber County is changing. We know that with this master planning coming out west, that needs to be addressed. We know that growth is not going away, and that's something that we all need to deal with. But at the same time, I think it's important that we have the public input, and I'd encourage the residents of West Weber County to get out and attend those meetings and send their input. Now's the time to do it. I think we demonstrated today that we are here to listen, but it's better to have that input now versus wait for 6 months when something's done and then complain about it. So now's your opportunity. I would take advantage of that time to have your voice heard. Get your input in. That's my comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Harvey, anything from you before we adjourn? No. Oh, very good.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.